I'm glad you're here. Let's get started so that we can get this going on. And I'm sure that the topic we're going to cover today will be of interest to many of you. Um, so this is my information. My disclaimer is that I'm going to give you information. Obviously, I'm not your doctor, and I have not examined you. So legally, I cannot give you direct advice. I'm going to give you general information. Hopefully, it will be very informative, and you're going to bring that to your doctor and discuss this with your doctor as needed. All right? Is social media a blessing or a curse? Who said both? Who agree both? Okay. Who agree that it's a blessing? Only a blessing. Who says it's a curse? Only a curse. Well, you're right. It is a blessing or a curse. Why? Because today we're we have global communication, which is great. Okay. Something happens in Australia, we know about that here in minutes or hours. While in the past, it would take months to get here. We talk. We don't write letters. I haven't written a letter to anybody in years and years. I just type emails. Okay, and I got a response instantly. So we're very interconnected. What is funny about the whole thing is that even though we're interconnected, guess what? We talk to each other less than ever before. We're becoming isolated to the point that we have now this meta universe. Are you familiar with the meta universe? You create your own universe, your own world, and you invite people to that world, and you live that fantasy. Another problem that we have amongst all the problems that we have today is that you look at social media, and there are a lot of fake news. And that's where I want to go to. How many of you have watched YouTube? Yeah. When you go to YouTube, that thing is free? No, they have ads there. They're getting money with their ads, and they're making money on that, right? And then I'm going to show you in a moment what happens when you're watching those ads. Beware when you're watching those ads. Number one, there is a sense of urgency. They tell you, you have to get this, you have to take this, you have to get this, you have to get this, you have to get this. And they're not giving you much importance to the quality of the product. It's just the urgency. Number one. Number two, it's easy to do. It's easy to acquire the product. Just put your credit card, bang, you're done. You're going to get your product. Number three, the results are really, really fast. Really fast results. You're gonna get this in no time, and it's gonna go really, really easy. This is a good one. Money back guaranteed. Oh wow, you have nothing to lose but wait. Okay, I'm gonna give you a short story. I ordered some pants in this company. I like them. They came. They were pretty cool, but they were like this big. So I called them. I said, you guarantee me I was going to get my money back, right? Yeah. Everything has to be all right. So they gave me the address to send the pants back. I did. I waited and waited, and there was no response. I called them back, and they started bouncing me from phone to phone to phone to phone. I never get the pants back or the money back. Okay, so what they're banking on is that number one, you're going to get frustrated, you won't get your money back, or you're going to forget. Or they'll say to you, it's only a 7-day trial. Once you get in, you forget the 7 days and you're hooked for a year or more. Okay, so when you see those things, be careful. The person has to do very little or nothing to achieve results. Okay, get in this diet. You don't have to do anything. You lose the weight. No matter what you eat, don't exercise, you're gonna lose the weight. And we like easy things, don't we? So. And the last one I want to mention is don't want you to know about this. The companies don't want you to know about this. I'm a physician. I have several patents in the market. You can look me up. And I'm going to tell you something. If you have something that is as good as you say it is, and they prove that it's as good as you say it is, what do you think the companies are going to do with you? They're going to block you? No, they're going to buy you out. I'm going to give you a little example. How many of you know Mark Cuban?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Mark Cuban, by the way, he's not Cuban. He's Jewish. The family changed his name so they wouldn't sound that Jewish. All right? So Mark Cuban came up with a platform to watch sports in Texas. And he came up with this platform because he loves sports. And he started adding things to the platform for Texas, and then it became a national thing, and he was doing pretty good. And one day, and that's the story, I heard him in this interview, somebody knocked at the door, and it was Yahoo. And what do you want? We want your company. Says, well, it's not for sale. Well, we're not here to argue with you. We're going to give you, I think they gave him $2.3 billion for your company. We're going to give you $2.3 billion for your company. What do you think he did? He sold it. And that's what happens with all this stuff. If you find something, if you find the cure for AIDS, you're going to become a super billionaire. You're going to have trillions of dollars in your pocket because all they look at is money. All right? So remember, when you see the things in those, I saw one that made me laugh. There is this, because erectile dysfunction is so prevalent today, and actually I have a part of the talk, I won't cover it today because we don't have the time, but erectile dysfunction comes all the time in YouTube and other platforms. And I have one that I had to laugh. This woman is talking, first they have an attractive woman, and she's very convincing, my husband was not functioning, and then he tried this simple thing, a little bit of salt, and he became a beast. And he can last for 4 hours. And this is incredible. But they took a step further. They lowered the camera, and there's a man lying in bed, and that man, which is, I'm sure it's not her husband, has a sheet on top of him, and it looks like a tent. Have you seen that one? Yeah. It looks like a tent. Okay, first of all, if that guy has his private part as long as that one, I want to know what he's taking. But they do that to attract you because they know that appeals to people, right? Are you with me? Now, of all the things I'm going to tell you today, this is the most important one. Amen. I don't care what your finances. Amen. I don't care what it is. If you don't have a spiritual connection with your spouse and God, don't tell me you don't have a spiritual connection with your spouse, but you have a spiritual connection with your God. It's not going to work. Okay? Spiritual connection is the first and most important thing that we all need. And I was telling someone here just earlier that it's funny how we talk about sex in other seminars. We talk about anal sex, oral sex, all the sex that you can imagine, and we discuss that in the light of the Bible and in the light of science. We do that. But I was telling this person that we pray with our spouses about finances. We pray with our spouses about health, about our kids, about our work, but we never prayed about sex. And I'm going to lead you to Songs of Songs, chapter 1. Read the first 10 verses there. That's basically a pornographic scene where the wife is saying, one of his wives is saying, I desire to be with my husband. And she gets aroused by the fact that he's going to come and meet with her. Read the verses. You're going to laugh. I read them to people, and she says, and now when the king comes, we're going to walk into his chambers. And I ask people, are they going to have a Bible study in the chambers? People start laughing and say, of course not. What are they going to do? They're going to have sex. And then I read further down and said, and we're going to praise the Lord. Amen. Just think about that. I'm not going to go into that today, but they're praising the Lord where they're having sex. Okay? Why is sex so dirty to us? The relationship of Christ with the church is a spiritual sexual relationship, right? He's going to marry the church, right? God says, I'm going after you. I dress you beautifully, and then you became a prostitute. Okay? So sex is involved in a spiritual and physical way all through the Bible. All right? So spirituality is extremely important. Now, I want to mention this because most people are unaware of this situation. We have some receptors in our brain. A receptor is like, this is a receptor. If you take a medication hook up to the receptors to do their effect. Okay? If you experience something, you see something that pleases you, is because these receptors are being stimulated. Okay? So those receptors, I'm not going to go into the science of this because it's not really exciting. But anyway, those receptors bring us what? Immediate pleasure. Does that sound familiar? When you go somewhere, you're going to do something, don't you want things done fast and to pleasure you? Okay? Immediate pleasure. The problem is that Satan knows very well that that's the way it works, and he uses that in different ways than others. So, with that being said, these receptors mediate addictive behaviors. Example, eating disorders. There are people that eat, and they can't stop eating because every time they eat, they experience pleasure. Okay? Sex addiction, pornography, gambling, spirituality. All the things are measured through the same receptor. So the receptor can be a blessing or it can be a curse. It depends on which way we approach the situation. Of course, this has created a perfect storm. With the way things are today in the world, this is absolutely incredible. Now, I want you to stress this. We are what we eat, and we eat what we are. All right? I'm going to say it again. Repeat it with me. We are what we eat, and we eat what we are. Pause here. The most incredible and prominent health issue that we have today, not only in this nation, in the world, is obesity. Okay? Obesity, right? We were in a trip to Amsterdam, and that was kind of interesting because that was one of the few places where I saw very few obese people. And the reason was because they have bicycles everywhere. You see, I saw a man that was walking like this. What is he doing? He got his bicycle, he's pedaling away. Actually, you run the risk of being run over by a bicycle there rather than a car. There are bicycles everywhere, and people are thin. There were people that were obese, but the vast majority were thin. Obesity is a real, huge problem. I used to work as the one of the administrators when I left my practice. One of the administrators for a health company in Palm Beach County, run by the government. And I decided, they spent a lot of money for people who have insurance. I decided to do a study of what we were doing. And I find out, to my surprise, that 70% of the problems that we had were due to obesity. If we could take care of obese people, the health issue will come down really fast, and we would save money. But to do that, you have to convince a whole spectrum of administrators. You know how it's in government. It was a bear to convince them that we needed to have something. And I said, well, if I can't do that with government, I can't do it with my community. Okay? So we can do it. If I can't do it with the government, I can do it with you guys. And that has been my mission, to bring health issues to you, discuss those health issues with you. So obesity is a huge problem. And I don't like to get into politics. I'm independent, but I think that's one of the issues that it's been discussed today in this country, right? With Kennedy, love him or hate him, but that's a big issue that's coming on to light right now. Now, obesity is the root of most of our health issues. I'm going to give you, I usually don't give myself an example, but I've always been very healthy and doing exercise, stuff like that. I abandoned that for work and other things. I gained a lot of weight. Somebody said, oh, you don't look like you in this picture. It's because that was the old picture. I lost a lot of weight. I lost 40 pounds. I'm a diabetic. My father was diabetic, my mother, my grandmother, everybody in the family. I have cousins that died at age 30 of diabetes. All right, so I'm a diabetic. And when I decided enough is enough, I lost the weight. I lost 40 pounds. I got off blood pressure medication. I got off everything, and my diabetic markers came back to normal. I take only one tablet for diabetes, and that's it. Okay? And by the way, I'm 78 years old. Okay? Yep. All right. So think about that. I finally decided it's enough. So what we eat has an immense influence on our overall health. Okay. This is really interesting. I mentioned the stuff pornography, blah blah, but drug addiction is a huge, huge issue in society. Do you realize that over 100,000 people die of overdose in this country every year? The last number, one of the biggest number I saw was like 125,000. Those are the people who died of overdose. I'm not talking about drug deals going bad, gangs trying to dominate an area of the city, stuff like that, and killing each other. I'm talking just people using drugs. Think of this.
This is overdose.
Overdose. Think of this. In Afghanistan, the army, the armed forces lost, I think, 3,500 soldiers. And that became a huge deal, and people got all upset, stuff like that. Do you see anybody getting upset about this?
No.
We have our priority in the wrong place. We need to get with the program. Okay, how does obesity affect us? We're going to affect us. Inflammation, scarring, loss of function, blah, blah, cardiac effect, renal, affects everything. Period. Just everything. All right? When there is inflammation, we don't think about this. When there is inflammation, in order to get better, there has to be healing. When healing happens, we get scar tissue. We destroy normal tissue, and we end up worse off than we were before. And that's, even if you don't hit ourselves with a hammer or whatever, as we get older, we're in the process of inflammation and healing. Inflammation and healing, we get all scar tissues lose function, and that's called getting old and dysfunctional. All right? Well, continue. Now, this is something really interesting, metabolic syndrome. How many of you have heard about metabolic syndrome? Metabolic syndrome has 5 parts. Number 1, you have what? Abdominal fat. Not fat alone. Very, very good. It's not fat alone. It's abdominal fat, the most important one. So you can have somebody who is very thin, but has a lot of fat around the abdomen. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. They're not better off than the guy who is obese. All right? Now, the other thing that we have is elevated triglycerides, which means the fat that we have in the blood, called triglyceride, is elevated. Then the other one is like they have low HDL. And the low HDL, is the only cholesterol that we call the good cholesterol. The higher you have that cholesterol, the better off you are. Okay? And then the other one that's important is what? High blood pressure, and finally abnormal fasting blood sugar. What does that mean? It means that when you are, say your doctor tells you I'm going to see you tomorrow, don't eat anything past midnight, you do that, you get there and your blood sugar is 125, it's elevated. Doesn't mean that you are diabetic, but you could be in the process of being diabetic, or you're indeed diabetic. Yes, sir.
How do you raise your low HDL?
How do you
Raise your...
Oh, very good question. I have a low HDL. Always have. And I have used every system in the book to raise it. It doesn't go up. So my only hope is to lower my total cholesterol. My total cholesterol is 100.
LDL.
Not LDL, triglyceride, everything put together. I have to lower that. I have to go in a stricter diet to do that because I tried B1, I tried exercise, I tried it all to increase the HDL. It doesn't go up. In some people, it works. If you take vitamin B1, if you do exercise, some people it works, some people it doesn't. So my only choice is restrict the fat so I can balance my system. All right? But very good question. Okay, now.
I find avocado is good.
The what?
Avocado. I use
Avocado. Yes, avocado is a great, yeah. Now, you've heard of this, right? BMI is body mass index. It's been used for years to determine your state of health. But that is changing dramatically. This is one thing that you're going to take home with you. BMI, if you're between 18.5 and 24.9, you're normal. And blah, blah, blah. Overweight is 25 to 29.9. Obesity, blah, blah, blah. Morbid obesity is over 40. Morbid obesity means that you're in a deep hole and you're going to die of complications. Obesity causes renal problems, mentioned heart problem, right? So on and so forth. Now, including inflammation of the prostate. And we're going to use that some example later on in this talk. Now, the problem with BMI is this. Say that you have a guy, I want to say Schwarzenegger, who, when he was Mr. Universe. Let's assume that he was not using steroids. And he's very muscular, right? He was very muscular. If you use the BMI for him at that point, he's classified as being obese. Why? Because we're looking at the body mass. And the body mass includes what? Includes bone, includes muscle, includes fat. Okay? He could have had 2% fat, but he had a lot of muscle, and it throws this whole equation off. Now let's take the other side. Somebody who is thin and looks pretty good. All right? Let's say the guy is 80 years old, look thin. You say, hey, you're in good shape. Well, there might be a problem with that. As we age, we lose muscle. We gain fat, but we lose muscle. Although the guy might look good, the guy might be malnourished. Hence the importance to exercise, and we're going to talk about that at the end of halfway through the talk. The importance to exercise. You want to preserve your muscles, okay? And studies have been done left and right where it shows that if you exercise regularly through your life, you lose maybe 5-10% of your strength, okay? But if you don't exercise, you won't be able to walk. A lot of people that are in their 70s and 60s and say, oh, I can't walk, I don't have balance, it's in my head. No, it's in your legs. Because you lost your muscles and now you have issues trying to stand straight. It's a complicated harmonic reaction between or interaction between the muscles that allows you to stand. It's a miracle that we can stand. I could go into that, how that happens, but that's not the topic today. All I'm saying is keep exercising to keep your muscles so you can keep your health. Okay? Now, the biggest problem that we have is that we have a lot of nutrients. We eat a lot of garbage, but you spend very little of that. Okay? And unfortunately, if you don't exercise enough to burn what you have eaten, it goes into reserve. I wish we would develop really humps like the camels, look ugly, and we'll say, oh, I don't want this. But no, we don't. We just develop fat and we get really big. Okay? So you get that. Now, that concept is still being used, but we're transitioning into something. Transitioning into something. Yeah, we're talking about fat here. I'm not going into that. Something called body roundness index. What that does is it looks at the fat around your waist. And if you have a phone, you can look for BRI, and it will give you ways to calculate your BRI. Why fat around your waist? Is because what we discovered is that the main indicative of health is how much fat you have around your waist, because it's a reflection of the fat that you have around your internal organs. And that fat is the fat that is going to kill you. All right? Are you with me or are you falling asleep? Okay, so this is, you can look at the BRI. You look at that in the internet, you'll find it, you'll find how to calculate that. But we're moving into this. And this is an article from the, right here, JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, where it studies the body roundness index and all-cause mortality among U.S. adults, okay? And that article is from July of last year. So it's a pretty recent article. What does obesity do? We talked about that already. But it adds to that depression, low testosterone, diabetes. Diabetes can happen because in my case, whether you're thin or fat, whatever in my family, everybody has it, or it is acquired. But even though in my family everybody has it, thanks God I've been able to control that very, very well. All right? So one thing that happens is that testosterone, men are losing 2% of their testosterone every year. When I say men, I'm not talking about individual men. I'm talking men in general. Every year we'll lose testosterone. If we continue this route, pretty soon we're going to become females, I guess. I don't know. We're going to go the other way. All right? Just a little thing is too long here for you, but what you need to know is that type 2 diabetes, which is what happens in adulthood, comprises about 90% of the cases of diabetes. And type 1 diabetes, our kids are born diabetic or become diabetic very early in life, is only 10%. But the interesting thing I wanted to mention to you here is that 90% of patients that are obese or overweight are obese or overweight at the moment of diagnosis. 90% of those who are diagnosed with diabetes are obese or overweight when they're diagnosed. Good indicative that if we can control our weight, we can control our diabetes. And I'm not going to go too much into this, but I want to stress this, please. Please, if I can convince you, persuade you to this, that'll be my greatest success today. This guy is Michael Pollan. He's not SDA. I don't know what he is. He's not a doctor, but he's a darn good writer. Okay, he has one book called Food Rules. I'm going to give you an example of what he says. He gives you explanation on foods and stuff like that, and then he goes, it becomes through the window of your car, it is not food. So what is he talking about here?
Fast food.
Fast food, okay. Have you heard of Blue Point?
Yes.
Right? That came in National Geographic about 15, 20 years ago. They were 5, now they're like 15 or 20. And one of them is where? California. Yeah, Adventist, right? Loma Linda, correct.
Right.
And so he goes through the Blue Point thing. And Mark Pollan talks about that a little bit, and he came up with something very interesting. Oh, by the way, yeah, I'll get into that in a moment. When he looked at those blue points, and other people had come to the same conclusion, he realizes that there are areas where people consume a lot of salt, and they don't have high blood pressure. Areas where people consume a lot of cheese, they don't have high cholesterol. Some areas where people consume a lot of red meat, they don't have issues. And that created some confusion in the beginning because we've been told don't do this, don't do that. And I'm not telling you you should go home and eat all the salt you want. What I'm saying is that the diseases and obesity is a multifactorial thing. A lot of things come together. But there is one that is a common denominator. In those places where they deviated a little bit from the norm, from our norm, they consumed products that were very close to the earth. What does that mean? They were non-processed food. Or very little process was put into that. All right? The worst food you can eat is cold cuts. Cold cuts are horrible. They are extremely oxidant food that will kill your joints and kill you eventually. The other type of food that we consume all the time is the vegetarian meat is not that healthy as we think, right? But we buy stuff, canned food, it has to go through a sterilizing process so it doesn't get contaminated and blah blah. And they're trying to deviate into other areas now, but they have something called nitrates. And they put nitrates there because nitrates, when they get cooked, they turn into antibiotics and kill the bacteria that is out in there. However, you know what? It kills us too. Right? It kills us too. So there are colorants. You heard about colorants are forbidden in Europe. That's true. They are cancer generators. All right? So read this guy, Food Rules. Let me give you an example of what he says. I told you about what comes through a window of your car is not food. He has another one that says, is an animal, referring to pork and lobsters and shrimps. If an animal eats garbage, why do I think that by me eating the animal, I'm going to do any better? Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, this animal is lobsters are scavengers of the oceans. They eat all kind of stuff there. Well, I'm gonna eat them. I'm gonna do better than them because I know better. I'm better than them. Okay. When I was very little, we were not Adventist. There was a neighbor that used to go and get crabs, And I was maybe about 4 years old when I saw what they were doing. I said, how do people eat this crap? Okay? They will grab. Have you seen how they do their crabs? They take them. They have boiling water. They throw them alive in the boiling water. They cook them and they eat them. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna use a word that probably people don't like, but I said, I don't think so. I'm not gonna be eating the shit that crab has inside. Right. Why would I put myself in that position? I was like 4 years old. Why do I want to put myself in that position? No way, Jose. So if the animal eats badly, you're not going to do any better than the animal. Okay, you're going to be killed by that. Actually, in Jackson Memorial, where we were there for some time, we had a girl that came from South America that her complaint was that she was seeing things in her eye. And when she was examined, you know what she had? She had larvae swimming in the eye, and that larva came from pork. Okay, we got another one that has seizures. The larva was in the brain. We had a guy that had hiccups, and he had trichina from the pork in the diaphragm, and that made him have hiccups for years. He had to have surgery to have that trichina removed. Okay, so.
I know somebody died from it. They use I think they said they use the pig manure to put on the lettuce. Then eat the lettuce. They have the chicken or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. It is. Now, another book is The Omnivore's Dilemma. I read them. And then the one is Green Thoughts. He's a contributor. He's not the author of that one. Now, if you don't want to read, which I strongly, please read. We need to read. If you don't want to read, there is in Netflix, there is a series called Down to Earth. And they started with 6 episodes. I watched the 6 of them. Incredible episodes. They have a second season third season. I haven't watched the other part. But if you don't want to go through all the episodes, you want to watch this one. The episode on Sardinia. Sardinia is an island west of Italy. And that island, the oldest people in the world live there. And they had a guy who is 100-year-old who is walking with them, walking upstairs, downstairs, and the guy looks like he's 60, thin, strong, and he's everywhere. Guess what? They consume a lot of carbohydrates. We're not supposed here to consume more than 55%. They consume way more than that, but it's non-processed, very minimally processed carbohydrate.
They make their own breads, they make their own everything.
They made everything. They the bread and flour and whatever. They're crazy about that stuff. Okay, so if you don't want to read, which will frustrate me, watch this series, Down to Earth. Okay, the best ones are the one on Sardinia, the one in Costa Rica, and the one in France. Those are the 3 best series that I've seen. All right. Okay. Now, with that being said, I told you that being obese or fat will affect us in different ways. I want to tell you what time, Eliezer, what time are we done here?
We're supposed to be done at 10 o'clock.
Oh, 10 o'clock, okay. 10 o'clock, is it 10? 11, okay, great. We have time then. This is, you've heard of benign prostate hyperplasia, or BPH, okay? I guess that I would say, looking I would say probably 80% of people here are over 40. Okay? If you're over 40, I have news for you. You have BPH. Do you hear me? You're over 40, you have BPH. And you say, I have BPH, and so what? BPH, what is it? How does it happen? Blah, blah. It's going to that BPH is abnormal, non-cancerous growth of the prostate. What that means is, it's like the prostate one day decided to go into a weightlifting program and started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Just when you lift weight, your muscles get bigger, the prostate starts to do the same thing. There is a little problem that we're going to talk about that later. No, it's not good. I'll tell you why. Okay. How does it happen? Hedging, chronic abuse, inflammation, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into that. But what is the prostate good for? The prostate is to produce a fluid which mixes with the sperm from the testicle. Testicle produce sperms. The sperm go up through little tubes, go and meet in the prostate, and the prostate provides them with nourishment. Remember, doesn't seem that they have to travel a lot, but those sperms are Olympic swimmers. They can swim, and they spend a lot of energy. So that fluid provides them the nutrients for them to swim and get to where they have to get. Yes?
I understand that it's like a backflow valve to so it prevents the sperm from coming back when you ejaculate.
We'll get that in a second. All right, so it gets there, they get to that area, they get the fluid, and the prostate has a second function, and that is that during ejaculation, during sexual intercourse and ejaculation, the prostate starts to do this. And what is that? It's pumping. And that's why the ejaculate comes out to go as high as it can go. It's safe energy to the sperm. And they get there and they swim and they do what they have to do. Okay? So remember that as we talk. Now, unfortunately, this is where the prostate is. I wish the prostate was close to my tonsils. But it is not close to my tonsils. It's close to my sphincter anus here. And you're lucky. I'm telling you, you don't know how fortunate you are that I'm not your primary care physician, because I have big hands, okay? And I could hurt you, all right? So this is the urinary bladder, right? This is a tube that comes out of the urinary bladder, urethra, and comes out of here. That's where the urine comes out from. The prostate is here, and it's wrapped around this tube, right? When the prostate, we put the finger there, we touch here, we can tell if the prostate is big or not, what's going on, right? Now, if I put my finger here and I slightly push there and you jump and hit the ceiling because it's painful, that means that you have an infection of your prostate. Now, that's called prostatitis, and that is not fun. But anyway, you get the idea. The prostate is wrapped around that tube there.
Can you detect that now through your blood?
I want to get there in a moment. Good question. Good question. I like this group. All right. So we went through that already. Now, signs and symptoms of BPH. I want you to understand. People confuse, like Pastor was saying, grace and mercy. They confuse signs and symptoms. A sign is something that anybody can see. A sign, for example, if you have a rash, I can see the rash. That becomes a sign. If you tell me I'm having shoulder pain, that's a symptom, because I can't see the shoulder pain. Okay? So that's why I'm trying to be technical here. I'm sorry?
That's why you say silent.
Yes. Frequent trips to the bathroom at night. How many of you get up more than 3 times a night to go to pee? Don't lie to me. I do.
If I drink a lot of water, I do it. But if I didn't drink any water.
All right. Well, if you were honest and raise their hand.
Sometimes I let it flow.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. All right. All right. All right.
Before, now I'm too, because the all the procedure that you're talking about.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get there now. So one of the symptoms, you get up at night and you urinate. Not only that, sometimes you have to really work hard at urinating. Right? It's not like in the past that you look like a fire hose. Now you go, it's blip, 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 blip.
When you push it like that, it tends to stop. You got to just wait and it come easily, because that tube is black.
Now, one thing that I discovered, because I have BPH, I'm human, I have BPH, what I discovered was that if I sit on the toilet, it becomes easier for me to go. Okay? And I'll explain everything. Don't worry, we'll get there. So, you have BPH, you go frequently to the restroom. The urine stream becomes narrow. It's very thin. Okay? If not drops, that's what you're getting. I see somebody looks at me and say, oh boy, that's what I'm going through right now. And the other thing that happens, which is you go and urinate, you get out of bed, go to the restroom, you come back, you lay down in bed, and you lay down in bed for 30 seconds, you have to stand up and go again. Has that happened to you? You go again. Why? Because you have not achieved complete emptying of the bladder. And it takes some time for the brain to tell you, hey, you have to go again. I try to beat that and say, I'm not going to listen to you. Leave me alone. I can't sleep. I have to get up and go a second time. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to mention is incomplete painful urination and also sometimes repeated infections. Why is it important? You have an obstruction of urinary ducts that creates retrograde pressure into your kidneys. And you have any kind of kidney condition can make the kidney condition worse. Okay? Now, the implication of this is just psychological. The other thing is that if you don't take care of this, your bladder might get so dilated that it might not function anymore, in which case, what do you need to urinate? A Foley. And I know people that walk around with Foleys because they cannot urinate. Another thing that you might need is, probably most of you haven't heard of this, a bladder pacemaker. Oh, you thought the pacemaker were only for the heart. No, they're pacemakers for the bladder that will give the bladder electrical shock, make it contract so that you can urinate. The other thing that we mentioned infections and disruption of sleep. You don't sleep well, you wake up in the morning tired. All right? What is the diagnosis for BPH? Hold on a second. Let me finish the part. What is the diagnosis for BPH? What is the diagnosis? I have, what do you want, the good news or bad news first?
Bad news.
Bad news first? Came again. You have to go through that, okay? No. There is no way to escape that. Now, he asked me a question. I'm going to answer that question in a second. There is no way to escape that. And diagnosis, what else do we do? And that answers your question that you probably knew the answer to. We have something called PSA. And PSA is something that measures the growth of the prostate because it picks up that prostate tissue. And it's, I don't go into the technicality of it, but we measure that and we say, oh yeah, you have an enlarged prostate. The normal PSA is less than 4. I know people that have PSA of 20, 25, 30. Okay? When the PSA is elevated, means that you have a prostate growth. Hopefully will be benign, but it could also be cancer. Right? Yes, yes.
You were talking about so many things that can help about removing the prostate.
Oh, well, we're going to get there. Yes.
I was told, as a matter of fact, I read that as we get older, it's natural for the prostate to get bigger.
The prostate tends to get bigger. Yeah, but that also has to do with what we eat and what we do. We'll get to that in a moment. Yes?
Which is more effective, the finger or the blood work?
Oh, that's really a funny question. My internist did a rectal exam at me one day, but he just did it. I was like, boom, and I'm like, I know we're good friends. I said, hey, look, man, at least if you're gonna do that to me, at least you should look at me and go like this and get me ready for it. Number one, and number two, don't be so drastic. I bet you 3 p.m., right? You got your watching there. I could read the time there. So take it easy, man. Take it easy. So second time I came to see him, or a year later, he asked me, do you want a full exam? I said, of course, that's what I'm here for. And then he says to me, including a rectal exam. I said to him, you're asking me if I'm going to go on my knees and say, please do. I said, which is more effective, the rectal exam or the PSA? More sensitive. And then he said, of course, the PSA. So I said to him, you know what you can do with your finger then? All right? Yes?
I say, the first time you were lucky because he might have asked you, are you satisfied with that or not? Do you doubt my result?
No. I didn't ask for a second opinion.
No, my doctor used to do finger, fortunately she's a woman. But she switched to doing exclusively the PSA.
Yep. No, there's nothing wrong with the PSA. But at least for one time, you should have a rectal exam because there are other conditions that can be discovered there other than the prostate. One time. It's just one time. PSA should be good afterward. By the way, I have this joke that I say to people of this guy who goes to see a doctor and says, I have a big prostate. The doctor says, really? The doctor does a rectal exam and says, your prostate is normal. He says, I want a second opinion. So another doctor comes in, start doing the rectal exam, and the cell phone goes off the cell phone, and he goes, hello, and he says, hey, John, it's you? Yeah, it's me. This is Ralph. Oh, Ralph, are you in town? I haven't seen you in a long time. He says, yeah, I'm close to your office. Finger's still there. I want to go to your office. Where you are? I'm at 52nd and 3rd. Okay, go straight up. Okay, and then the 3rd Street, you make a right-hand turn. And then there is you go down, you go up. And then you make a left turn, and my office is at the very end, very end. So when he's done, he hangs the phone. The patient's looking at him with the eyes very big, says, what's wrong? He says, doctor, can you do me a favor? He says, what? I got lost in the first turn. Can you explain to me again? So, wait a minute, let me go because now we're not gonna finish this. So the other thing is doing ultrasound with biopsy, and the other one is MRI, another form of examination. Got 10 minutes? Okay, so 10 more minutes. Okay.
We get 10 minutes to get to the chapel.
All right. So I'm going to fly through this last part, and that is the following. Avoid things that should be avoided. Things that should be avoided to prevent or delay the prostate problems. Irritating substances. Caffeine. Coffee. Coffee is a diuretic, but also a stimulant and irritating to the whole body, especially the prostate. Caffeine, okay? I want to make a parenthesis here. Caffeine is one of 3 components. There is a parent component called methylxanthine, and under that is caffeine, theophylline, and theobromine. Caffeine is coffee, theophylline is tea, theobromine is chocolate.
Wow.
They're all stimulants. Chocolate is the least of stimulants of all of them. But chocolate then produces dilation of the sphincter of the stomach and gives you heartburns. Okay, so caffeine is not good for the prostate. Alcohol is not good for the prostate. All right? And dairy products with saturated fats increase inflammation. They're not good for the prostate. Even what?
Decaf.
Oh, decaf. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of have a stubborn mind. I hardly ever drink coffee, but like the guy from the beer company, 3X or 2X, whatever it was, is the commercial. Yeah. When I drink coffee, I drink caffeinated coffee, if I do, because the process of, that is kind of, I'm not going to get into that, but either I don't drink coffee, but if I drink the whole thing. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, you have the dairy products. There are crude juices that can be damaging too if they're heavily processed. Okay, and some orange juices are heavily processed. Red juices are good, but again, drink closer to earth. If I can get the orange and eat the orange, is better than drinking the juice, right? And so on and so forth. Carbonated drinks. Do I drink carbonated drinks? Yes, once every 3 months I drink one.
Soda? Coke?
Yeah. I drink them one every. And then friendly drinks. Water, of course, is one, but green tea. That's it's good. Green tea does have theophylline, but in very small amount compared to the teas. The good of the green tea way overweights the bad. All right? The green tea is something that you need to think about. Now, the medical treatment for BPH is Flonase, Propecia. Propecia, of those who want to save some of the hair in the head, makes the hair in your head grow, but they have side effects. and one of them is retrograde ejaculation, which means instead of shooting forward, you're shooting yourself. It goes back into the bladder. Okay? It doesn't kill you, but when you go and pee, your urine is very foamy. And you know that you haven't semen getting into the bladder. It will decrease your ability to procreate if that's what you want to do. The other one that is used is prostate embolization. That's pretty intricate for special cases where you go in and plug the arteries that supply the prostate. And what you're doing is you're destroying the prostate without doing surgery. Okay? It's like producing a heart attack to the prostate, except that you don't feel the pain. The other one is Urolift. Urolift, what it is simple. They go up the penis, they get to the area of the prostate, and they put stents there, and they open the canal again. You can pee again freely. Beware, that takes care of that, but does not treat the BPH. The prostate continues to grow, and you need to continue to be followed for in the event you develop cancer of the prostate. All right. Surgery is brutal, but can be done, and then a Foley, which is the last resort. And now to give you an explanation, I had an increase in my PSA. Was still normal, but it was a fast increase. It was so fast that my doctor said, hey, we have to check you in 6 months, make sure that you don't have a cancer of the prostate. Do you think I'm going to wait for 6 months? No. I went to the urologist, my friend. I said, I know you're going to rape me, but that's okay because it's because of my health. And he did a rectal exam on me, which was not preferable. But then he went ahead and said, I can do the biopsy of the prostate here in my office and the cystoscopy, go up your penis and check out. I said, no, boy, you're not going to do that on me because that hurts like crazy. Under local anesthesia, it hurts. So, yeah, it hurts. So I said, no, you're going to put me out, give me the prevent. He did that, and he went through my penis and checked in there. Yeah. And then went on the other way too and checked me there. And he did 12 biopsies of my prostate, which is normal. Now I'm looking at what's my next step, what I'm going to do next. So I know I don't have cancer. All I have to do is whether I go through, I use medication in the past, I didn't like them. Oh, this is what I want to mention, forgot. Medication that I use is Cialis, tadalafil. Cialis is similar to Viagra, but it has long acting. And you kill two birds with the same stone. You improve your prostate and your drive sex goes up. I think I mentioned that to you. I'm 78 years old. Well, I still function. All right? Yeah, still function. Oh. So, Urolift, we talk about surgery and Foley. And why not? We're not going to talk about that now. I just want to finish with this. Oh, it's a catheter. You put a catheter up your penis, and I see people that live with the catheter. A member of my church had the catheter for a long, long time. I kept telling him, get the Urolift done, man. This is crazy. And finally, he had the Urolift done. Catheter was taken out, and he's been happy with the results. Okay? So, are we done? Do you have any questions? I was going to do some exercise sample for your belly, but I don't have time for that. Questions? Yes. Oh, is it?
You talk about exercise. What you have to do for exercise?
What do you have?
I see people run and walk, or they go to the gym and pay money.
All right. Okay.
Pump, lift.
Okay.
What is it?
Exercise. Simple exercise. Learn to check your pulse. You check your pulse, and you count the number of beats that you get in 10 seconds. Multiply that by 10, and that's your heart rate. Okay? Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. When you go out for a walk, don't walk like this. You walk fast paced. You measure a distance that you want to walk, and you have to walk at least half an hour, at least 4 times a week, if not every day. Half an hour, okay? When you finish your walk, you check your pulse, and you decide whether you need to increase your pace. How do you do that? The formula is simple. 225 minus your age is the heart rate that you should achieve when you're walking. Okay? In other words, if you're 50 years old, let's say you're 50-year-old, and the number is 225. 225 minus 50 is 175. And 175 is the max heart rate that you should achieve. You shouldn't go beyond that because it could be dangerous. Now, what we do, we establish a safety zone. So we say, go to 80% of your max heart rate. 170 times 80% is about 140 beats per minute. That's where you want to be. Doesn't mean you're at 150, you're going to go crazy. No, you have all the way up to 170 to deal with. However, what you do is you do that regularly, walk, and you check your pulse. You know what you're going to find out? That you walk the same distance in the same amount of time, but now your heart rate is lower. You know what that means? You're conditioning yourself. You're doing good. So you have to increase your pace to bring your heart rate back up. Until finally you level off, and that's the ideal conditioning moment for you guys.
What's the formula again, Doc?
What is that?
What's the formula again?
225 minus your age. And the number you get, that's the maximum you can get at any given time. You shouldn't pass that, but you want to keep it lower at 80% of whatever the number you get, okay? And a couple of exercises I want to, ask me the question afterwards, so I want to show you, I'll answer your question. I'm going to show you a couple of exercises. And one exercise that is simple is this. Just stand up, feet, shoulder wide, put your hands out, you come down, and you come up. But you have to go all the way out, and you have to feel your weight on your heels, not the front. If you feel in the front, you're doing it wrong. You can do 10, 15, 3 repetitions, whatever. If you can do 2, you do 2. Another one is the planks. You heard of the planks, right?
Yes.
Flat feet.
And the planks are, for the squats, yes, flat feet. For the planks, you just lie yourself like this, put your elbows down, and like this, keep your feet together, and you put a clock there. You have to hold this position for 30 seconds. If you hold it for 5 seconds, that's okay. But you need to hold it. Now, beware that when you get tired, what do? You tend to lift your butt up. And that's not right. You're cheating. Okay? The other one that you can do, and I do that in a routine. I go to the gym too. The one you can do is this. Don't hurry, don't rush. You do this. And you do that 10, 15 times to get your blood and everything going. So you have one, you have plank, you have this one. You can lay back and do the abdominal crunches.
The plank we do the plank, we just show us.
You can do the push-ups if you want to, but when you do the plank, you just sit there, you stay there. 30 seconds. I do a minute. But you can work yourself as long as you want to. The other variant that I do is this one. I do this one, right? And that works your shoulders and your abdomen. And we're done.